spy shows. Our fascination with them has been endless. As Wesley Britton expresses in his book Spy Television, these series often tended to emphasize our interest in new technology and what it means in our lives. One show that continues to have this type of appeal is Scarecrow Mrs. King, which aired on CBS from 1983 to 1987. In this program, the lead character is an undercover agent named Lee Stenson, played by Bruce Boxleitner, who works for a top-secret organization. He is aided by Kate Jackson's character, Amanda King, a recently divorced mother of two. Amanda's low notoriety among the spy community and differing perspective on situations provides further insights on missions. Ultimately, Amanda and Lee make an unconventional but productive undercover team. Every August, as a part of Monmouth College Summer Opportunities for Intellectual Activity Program, or SOFIA, groups of returning and incoming students have the chance to do extensive research with a faculty member. For our project this year, led by Dr. Christine Myers, we worked to track down the filming locations from Scarecrow Mrs. King. We reported our findings at a worldwide Scarecrow Mrs. King forum, where Dr. Myers and other members are researching and mapping filming locations from the show. When watching an episode of a TV program, the audience chooses to accept the illusion that the show takes place in a particular city. Some of these locations can be misleading and may not be filmed where the show is actually set. Examples of such locations can be found in Scarecrow Mrs. King. The show takes place in Washington, D.C. and the Virginia area. In reality, the series was primarily filmed in the Golden State of California, which is more than 2,000 miles west of the nation's capital. Although some of the early scenes were filmed in Washington, D.C., most of the action happens at the Warner Bros. Backlot studio or elsewhere in the Los Angeles area. How can someone be certain that they know where a show is filmed? In the case of Scarecrow Mrs. King, locations can be confirmed in multiple ways. To start off, the viewer can watch a particular episode and search for vital clues in the background of the show. The most basic method is to look at street signs, names on buildings, or street addresses, and decide on a place to start investigating. After taking all the visual clues from a scene into consideration, it is possible to use Google Maps Street View to examine and confirm a precise location. The first clip I was assigned was from the season 2 episode, A Relative Situation. In this episode, Lee and Amanda attempt to clear the name of Lee's military uncle, who is accused of traitorous acts that led to some of his airmen's death. During an afternoon stay at Amanda's house, Lee's uncle was kidnapped, causing Amanda and Lee to engage in a high-speed chase to rescue the colonel. Knowing that the pursuit began and ended at 2 locations previously found by other researchers working on the project, Amanda's house and the Fashion Square Shopping Center was helpful in determining what areas to search. Tori will now show a 2-minute clip of the scene. Pay close attention to the types of landmarks I mentioned before. Alright, so did anybody happen to see the street sign in the middle of the clip? Well, there was one. It said Addison Street, and this is actually what helped me to determine where the filming location was at. By walking through the neighborhood in Google Street View and studying the environment surrounding the area, including the shape of windows on homes and the location of trees and bushes, it was possible to find several of the exact buildings shown on your screen in this on-hand handout. As it turns out, the chase actually took place on the same three streets: Addison Street, Marietta Avenue, and Morrison Street. Filming from different angles and directions, along with clever editing, made it appear to cover more territory. Dario was giving a tele sequence from the season 3 episode J. Edgar's Ghost. In this scene, Lee and Amanda are following a co-worker, Agnes, in a man she is dating, who is intent on stealing top secret information on different public officials. A benefit to this footage was that all locations were passed by both vehicles, making it possible to distinguish slightly different elements each time. Agnes's townhome, where the clip began, is located on Moore Park Way in Toluca Lake, California, and the scene ends at the Warner Brothers studio. Also, from reviewing the clip, it was clear that the street had no sidewalks and had addresses painted on the curb. Having these parameters focused the search into Toluca Lake and eliminated several streets within the neighborhood. What eventually led to confirmation of the location was a large street with 5 distinctive ranges, which is the next image on the handout. Although most researchers must rely on man-made structures, nature can also provide lasting indicators of where filming took place decades ago. One of the key obstacles facing this type of research is that the environment may have changed in the last 30 years, causing locations to look completely different. It sometimes becomes difficult to pinpoint filming locations without actually being in Los Angeles. The way we chose to proceed was to talk to different Monmouth College faculty who at some point in their lives lived in the LA area, since they may have been to the locations themselves. After setting up appointments and teaching the faculty the procedure for finding filming locations, all were able to help narrow the field for us to search. Just like in any other historical research, there were many different possibilities for one single location. For certain scenes, some professors completely contradicted the information provided by another. A particularly challenging scene came in the season 2 episode, Brunettes Are In. Because this location was a harbor, in the standard version of Google Street View provides very little detail for coastlines, Bing, in the Google Maps app, was used to provide different and more helpful angles. After eliminating suggestions of Channels Dock, Huntington Beach, Marina del Rey, Ventura Harbor, and the entire East Coast, we found that the scene in question was filmed on Alamitos Bay in Long Beach, California. Corey was able to locate a second scene from the same episode that was set in a laundromat by further exploring the satellite imagery of the Alamitos Bay area. As you can see in your handout, it was not an easy task to complete. It is not uncommon for Scarecrow and Mrs. King to reuse locations different ways in the same episode to make the most of their time filming. The third week of this research program focused on stock footage that is used to establish the location of a scene, but may be from any place in the world. Carolyn was assigned a snippet of stock footage from London using the season 3 episode We're Off to See the Wizard, that included double-decker buses and British taxis. The fact that the scene had been filmed at night made it more difficult to pick out obvious indicators like street signs. So she started searching Warner Brothers stock footage at Getty Images. After coming up empty there, she moved on to Google Images and a regular Google search for London hotels in the 1980s. Finally, she got a hit for the website Mr. Footage, where she found the Royal Garden Hotel, and it was the same footage she'd been looking for. Having the name of the hotel made it easy to find the address and to plot it on the SMK in London map. One specific piece of stock footage was shot in Galena, Illinois, as well as a historic town about 2 hours north of Monmouth College. The clip shows a courthouse where Lee and Amanda marry in the Four Seasons, setting the location for a pivotal moment in the series. To recreate the angle from which the scene was shot, we went to Galena. Upon our arrival, we began by taking pictures of the building close up and searched for possible vantage points from which the scene could have been filmed. Nearby was a set of stairs that led to a bridge that gave us the right height and angles for the shot. We then lined up buildings where screenshots made previously. It is interesting to note that what was shown as a courthouse in the show is actually the old Galena post office. So why does this matter? The spy genre in television has transcended many decades, showing society's long-standing fascination with espionage. With each new generation, new technologies allow for new types of spying. Press accounts in recent months and feature films like Closed Circuit indicate that people know that they are being spied on to some extent, but may not consider the extent they are being observed. Wesley Britton comments that viewers thought spy shows were glimpses into what was really going on, highlights the gap between reality and perception of reality. People do not always consciously consider that there is more going on than meets the eye. This Sophia project brought to life this realization in the case of Scarecrow and Mrs. King. In determining how the fictional world of Washington, D.C. espionage was created in relation to the actual location used in the show, it became possible for us to have a deeper understanding of the scenes in question. Brett Mills notes that in television productions, real buildings play fictional ones, but even knowing that, it is still possible to suspend disbelief in order for the story to work. The post office that was supposed to be the courthouse where Elena and Amanda get married is a great example of this concept. Visiting Galena enhanced our appreciation of the show rather than detracting from it because we can see how much effort went into the show's construction. Furthermore, the benefits of this research will be longer lasting than the 3 weeks it took to complete. This project not only helped the fan community add to their archive, it also allowed us as undergraduate students to learn about new digital tools that will help us in the future. The skills we develop for analyzing visual information can be used not just to figure out what happened in the TV show 30 years ago, but also can be used to evaluate what happened 100 years ago as we study other people and places in history. The ability to find clues in images that are not usually looked at, such as street layouts or features in the landscape, and figure out where the scene was filmed is a great technique that will benefit us in the archives. We also discussed the ethical questions often raised in historical research. One could argue that the intrusive nature of Google Street View is ethically ambiguous, but as a research tool, there's no denying its usefulness. In the end, this research project proved a unique way to hone various historical research skills and gave us understanding about how such research is changing that will prove invaluable to us in our academic